Thank you for your time. As always, ultimately, we would like to see a board at the SABC. But this board will still have to work with the same minister the previous board resigned due to the interference of. So, is this all much ado about nothing? Will the SABC editorial policy come from the board or the ruling ANC?
Look, it's quite important that the board gets appointed quickly, because it is problematic that we have a board that is not correct, and it was really unfortunate that the previous board had to resign over the politicking around a few issues relating to the operations and the direction of the SABC. It has serious consequences that the SABC doesn't have a board, and we're going into an election, and it's not just the elections that counted. There are a number of other stories and that South Africans need to be informed of. It could be about the economy, the state of our institutions. So we've got a very new executive leadership at the SABC. And they've made some good decisions recently, and there have been some encouraging signs that they're quite strong and they are prepared to work and protect the independence of editorial. So these signs are encouraging, but you wonder if they are really fortified to be a very strong body that can withstand political pressure. It's common during an election campaign period for the SABC to come under incredible pressure from political players who are trying to lean on it, to put it mildly, to cover them.
And that is putting it mildly when you consider that Fikile Mbalula, who is the chair of the ANC selection machinery, you know, thrusting himself into the Auckland Park offices, as it were, is not any different to what the National Party government did. But how do we get a ruling party to understand that the SABC is not a state broadcaster, but a national broadcaster?
Look, we don't know the details of the meeting between the SABC and the ANC, but what we know is the ANC's track record around the SABC and the election period, where the ANC would force upon the SABC what the SABC should be doing. That really flouts the basic protections that are crafted actually through our laws, and that makes the SABC a public broadcaster, as you're saying, and not a state broadcaster. Also, very recently, we saw the communications minister trying to censor journalists in the Eastern Cape, and including reporters from the SABC. So we know what kind of environment we are talking about when the ANC reaches out to the SABC. We know what they have done, the different incarnations of our leadership at the SABC, whether it was Claudi Motsoeneng, or going back up to 15 years, and to try and really push and put the leadership under incredible pressure so that they could sing and follow the direction coming from Luthuli House, which has been quite unfortunate. In the past, I mean, the ANC had tried to interfere with the processes of appointing the directors at the SABC.
But, okay, from an opposition point of view, it really worries how much airtime they will be able to get vis-a-vis the ubiquitous machinery that is the African National Congress. And when opposition members are not part of any political party coming into the offices of Auckland Park, it looks like one party is, you know, running away with the agenda, as it were. So in order for an electorate who's out there looking at the coverage, how do they know that what they're being given is a fair representation?
Look, it's going to be difficult. It's one of those questions about whether or not you'll ever get everybody satisfied with the kind of coverage they're getting. And the ANC would try to say they have 65% of the votes, and therefore they deserve 65% of the airtime. And somebody else will say, hey, my party is new, it is not represented in parliament, so you cannot use the way that proportional
representation works.
Yeah,
it just would be unfair to all the smaller parties. So who should set that representation? Is it still the Independent Electoral Commission?
No, but what I'm enjoying actually watching the new executive party at the SABC is they seem to be taking decisions based on their editorial judgment, and they're not ticking boxes to who has got so many votes, and therefore this is what how much we should be following them. They are interested in what's going on, and they're asking very hard questions of the ANC and many other political parties, and they are using their news sense, and they are empowering their editorial managers and the reporters on the ground to use their own critical judgment as journalists, as they should.
Sam, you as SANEF, you say that you're worried about the rise, if you will, of attacks and the trend thereof on journalists. We cannot not speak about the situation with Karima Brown and the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema. How he took a private conversation within a WhatsApp group, tweeted it on a public platform with a number, the phone number of Karima Brown, who's now constantly being harassed by EFF supporters who think they're doing their bidding on behalf of Julius Malema. What can SANEF do to protect Karima here, or any other journalist in this regard? Do you have any teeth?
Look, it's an unfortunate situation. I would be bothered about it even if it had happened in the accountancy field or in the medical field, where somebody is being threatened, and whatever the merits of the case are. But to receive such a bullying and the messages and intimidation and the threats to rape her is really shocking. So as SANEF, we are concerned about what has happened to her and many other journalists recently. We are in conversations with Karima Brown and our lawyers, and to look at what legal remedies are out there. This could also be a test case for the Electoral Court, because Mr. Malema's conduct flouts the provisions of the Electoral Act, and we will see what the IEC will do about it.
Do you think politicians are aware of the rise, if you will, the heated debate that comes to the fore, especially before the elections, and how they have a responsibility to make sure that the same people, the fourth estate, you and I, people who cover the event, are also protected from their supporters?
You think that they are aware? I mean, Mr. Malema is a member of a parliament. He took an oath to protect the constitution.
But he refused
of the Republic
to remove the pinned tweet, which has Karima Brown's numbers.
It says quite a lot about him and the kind of party the EFF is. In one moment they are democracy lovers, and they are prepared to use the courts, and the next thing, and they go completely off the rails to abuse people and flouting the provisions of the very same constitutions they claim to respect.
Sam, you've been in the game, you've been a news hound longer than I have. When you look at the forthcoming May elections, do you think that we are doing better as the media from a coverage and representation point of view than we did in 2014?
Look, it's difficult. I haven't had a chance to careful and to compare the coverage of the election. But there are good things that are being done, and people in power are being asked the hard questions, and the candidates and their political parties. But it's a new terrain. I mean, it's completely changed to what we had in 5 years ago. I mean, we had Bell Pottinger 2-3 years ago setting up an incredible social media infrastructure, introducing a whole lot of evil means of communicating. I doubt that infrastructure has been completely removed, considering how social media has been weaponized. What Julius Malema is doing is not different to the fake news agenda that was driven by the New Age. You wonder now what's going on and who's advising whom. So these are some of the things that we have to grapple with as journalists, and also helping the public understand the terrain that we're in.
Sam Mkokeli, I thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, my brother.
Thank you. That was SANEF's Chair of Media Freedom Subcommittee, Sam Mkokeli.